Buenos dias. Good morning to everybody. It's really a pleasure to be with you in this very interesting conference. And my name is Jörg Schröder. I'm coming from Leibniz University Hannover. I'm architect and urban planner. Next. Fede. Next. The aim is to bring maybe some additional points for your discussion in this conference. And I called my contribution Circular Dynamics, and I will soon explain what it could mean. And first, to start with this very nice photograph from a project that you maybe know from Zollverein in Essen, a former coal factory site, coal extraction site, that now has become not only this very nice swimming pool and facility in summer and aggregation point of a new community, that is meeting there, but also a point for urban development and, let's say, a regional lighthouse project for a whole area. And next, that's the first point I want to talk about. Peripheries. Next. Since we are now in, let's say, politics, culture, in the media, talking a lot about metropolis, and almost all attention in Europe is faced towards our metropolises, what is good and important and has also a global dimension, But effectively, there are, as you see in this night photograph, there are many areas that are quite dark, And I want to talk a bit about these areas, It's a clear, let's say, also history, and it has a certain logic to have centers and peripheries. What is actually going on, is a trend of really increased metropolization that is happening in the whole of Europe. And we have to face this challenge, this trend to prevent a loss of possibilities, I would say, basically. Next. And what do I mean with peripheries, I could mean new phenomena and a common vision of certain topics that until now have been seen quite in separated, let's say, fields of science and also fields of policies. Like, for example, urban peripheries, suburbia, certainly medium and small cities, but also rural areas, mountains, remote areas. And I think this discussion is quite broad. And what you are having in Spain, for example, discussing about La España Vacía, that mainly connects to an agricultural heritage and agricultural past, at the same time is, I think, very valid for the industrial past that shaped many cities and also regions that now have been a bit fallen out, of, let's say, public awareness and of economic and social connections and perspectives. What is a, I think, quite important topic we have to face. Next. And now this point that we shouldn't talk only about metropolises or city can be shown with numbers, So only 40% of Europeans are living in cities with more than 50,000 inhabitants, and 60% are living in smaller towns, in villages. But this, let's say, is not just a fact of statistics of single entities, but of whole regions, that in our countries are facing challenges and transformation processes. And in Germany, very prominent, are former high industrial areas and also areas connected to coal mining, like the Ruhr, for example, where I showed the image of Zollverein. Well, next. And we coined this term of periphery, or better, dynamics of periphery, to look into possibilities for the future, to activate them, in a book that we edited together with Maurizio Carta from University of Palermo. Next. And just to report to you briefly some main ideas inside of this book, that we faced on 3 topics: resource of resilience, habitat vision, and territorial creativity. Next. That starting now from the discussion about resilience, that is most crucial now, with the topics of climate change, mitigation, adaptation, with the topics of how to succeed in a certain autonomy, in energy, in a lot of environmental issues, but maybe also social issues. And at the same time to be part of networks that only make local setups resilient. That's a very important discussion. And for sure the topic of circular economy. And let's say we try to combine this discussion and this research with 2 other, I think, very important points. One, territorial creativity. With this, we mean really to work in a structured and creative way with social capital that we have, especially in the peripheries and the transformation regions, but also cultural, spatial, and natural capital, that is combined with the social capital, the point of enabling local communities to set up strategies and change for the future, and new linkages, between peripheral areas and metropolises and larger networks, And third point, habitat vision, to see spaces maybe fallen out of bigger networks, of public awareness as spaces of possibility. And this is actually happening in the whole of Europe, that especially young people discover these peripheries for let's say, new models of working and living, for starting also new economic activities, for starting new social activities, for new models of multi-place living, where you change between places, where you have telework, digitization, and in the end to form new communities, that also connected with some idea, for example, of temporary citizenship. That is quite prominent. Next. And basically, with this, let's say, theoretical framework, we are trying to extending the concept of resilience beyond its technical and systemic meanings towards spatial and social, let's say, dimensions, and especially to a dynamic dimension that I think is very important, and regarding adaptivity of the future strategies of our cities and regions, and also the topic of redundance that is breaking with a lot of convictions and a lot of established procedures, that run only, let's say, in one fixed direction. And the idea of redundance deeply emerged in the concept of resilience, I think is a very interesting point to discuss. Next. Next. Well, to show a second project we are also currently working on, that we call Creative Heritage. Next. What do we mean with this term creative heritage? We let's say, as looking from architecture and urban planning, are looking specifically to the role heritage can play in this, let's say, future of cities, that for sure is touching inclusiveness, so the forming of communities, the forming, let's say, also of spirit, of local spirit, the topic of resilience that we had already, and cultural heritage as creative factor, that really can enhance visions for the future of our cities, and for the concept of regeneration. Next. We published a book that is called Creative Heritage. That is, let's say, from quite a range of international researchers collecting some access to this topic. Next. And just to quote some of the main statements of the book, heritage communities enhance local and creative approaches against decline. No? Next. Or creative heritage is the traces and signs that generate stories, actions, and events to orient our cities. And overall, no, we are trying to set a creative, let's say, dimension and also a creative methodology to set heritage as new value for the future in a larger debate, no, that really connects especially to resilience and to the current political objectives we are having. Next. Next. And no, they are clearly connected to climate change. And the Green Deal, I will speak a bit about this later, no, is an answer, no, to what Paul Gruson already in 2000 named the Anthropocene. So the human influence that is strong like a geological age and has already changed the whole setup of our planet. Next. And now with the European Green Deal strategy and the objective to be the first carbon-free continent and climate-neutral continent by 2050, European Commission has started already, a lot of interconnected policies in this field that I think are quite important for the future of our cities. Next point. And now just to remember, about the main objectives, that is clearly, about economy. So, what advantages can be taken from this orientation towards sustainability and resilience, and also objectives, that regard health, that regard quality of life, that mention caring for nature, and with the objective of leaving no one behind, or let's say the social transition dimension of all this, are addressing a point that is quite important, I think. Next. And one topic that is mentioned in many points in these new strategies is the point of circular economy that is seen not only in politics, but also in research as one of the most important topics for the next years. And let's say the interesting points could be, that circular economy is addressing a promise of prosperity. It's establishing new value change overall for a green economy, that it's regenerative by design, and aims to decouple growth from finite resource consumption. And as main principles, as Ellen MacArthur Foundation puts it, could be seen to design out waste and pollution, to keep products at their highest value and in use, and to regenerate natural systems as a capital. Next. And with this graphic from 2016, European Commission summarized this idea that is clearly a cyclical idea, that in the end, let's say, there is no waste, in these circular ideas. And what I think is very interesting, to go beyond only a material dimension of streams that we see in cycles, and go also to other factors that are, let's say, economic streams, but that are also streams of knowledge, streams of social movement, and streams of ideas, that can be seen in this idea of loops and of circles. Next, very briefly, I want to show you some slides of a recent project, a current project we are doing in the framework of the Creative Europe program of European Union, that is starting from the topic of food. Just as one example, how to enter into this debate about circular economy. It's called Creative Food Cycles. You can also have a look at the homepage, creativefoodcycles.org. Next, where you find a book that we published last week, and you can download it, that summarizes some of the main ideas and contributions. Next. This project is a cooperation with the University of Genova and AIAC in Barcelona. Next. And we are starting, let's say, from facts, that food waste has a huge dimension, that food production contributes highly to climate gas emission, and now we have to face increasing population in the world overall to make this a stress factor. Next. And our aim, since this project is in the cultural program of European Union, not to combine an access to social, economic, and ecological questions with technological things, so not only ICT, but also innovations in digital production and spatial and cultural creativity that can play a major role, in really reaching these objectives. Next. Well, and we organize this in different phases that run from production to consumption to disposition. Next. and let's say collect and analyze recent best practices, recent projects we are having in terms of places in the city, of markets that have a new organization, of places of production, of micro interventions. Next. And also, let's say, of interventions in public space, that like folding tables, that can bring this topic of better cyclical organization really also in public space. Next. And in the end, also for new urban networks. Next. Exactly. Some images, let's say, about this digital design, for example, of new facades. Next. Next. Well, we are running an itinerant exhibition that is seen in several cities. Next. And all this, let's say, from a more theoretical point, is connected with a reconsideration of design. That is an important factor, let's say, not only in terms of product design, but especially in terms of architecture and urban design, that connected with the ideas of circular economy should leave former, let's say, linear thinking and linear processes of condensing information, of structuring it, of coming to solutions. Next. Towards what we call design loops, that include, let's say, creative processes in design itself with human feedback at various points. So in the end, this is a creative social or a co-creation process somehow in various levels, in architecture as well as in urban design or towards territorial strategies that we need, that then maybe establish new rituals or new, let's say, communities that act in a certain way and supports them in setting up projects for the future. I think this is a major challenge our disciplines have to face, and for this we have to establish completely new linkages and contacts to other disciplines and to civil activists and also to policies. Next. Next. Well, and I want to finish with a quote by Manuel Castells, and he says, at its core, the new economy is based on the culture of innovation, on the culture of risk, the culture of expectation, and ultimately on the culture of hope in the future. Well, so I think this topic of circularity maybe can be very interesting in dealing with industrial heritage, and I wish good progress of your conference and good discussions. Thanks a lot.